Hello. Good evening. I think this is the start of second adventure. We had like a little break after the first one because short weekend and stuff like that. So I guess it's the proper start of it. Are we going to go back to Japan and see the boys? Or not Japan. Back to England. Japan's where we were. Continue the memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. Was an investigation part? Hi, bro. So we had we wrapped up the stuff with why is your name gone from my head? Welcome back, Pearl. Hope you had a good weekend. I know you said you were chatting about your D&D like, but I hope you had a good time. Susato, that's her name. We finished off with Ray and all that kind of stuff, so we're into now Adventure 2. The Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. Let's go. That's where we at. Episode 2. Here we go. The Memoirs. It says of here.
It was a ghastly tale of a winter's night.
Here we go.
One of an invisible killer and a crime perpetrated on the pavement along Briar Road.
Oh.
As the victim lay at death's door, the mystery of just who had stabbed the young lady from behind had been resolved. But no sooner had my friend saved that Eastern Exchange student from his harrowing plight, then in the dim, flickering shadows of gaslight did a second bizarre crime rend the stillness of that very night. I dare say most can still recall the sensational headlines of the day.
We're going back to our boy
Haunted
Shums.
Apartment of Death, the condemned criminal's curse, the dread demon of coal gas. Yet, though the great detective had at once discerned the truth upon his arrival at the scene, it only proved to be the overture that announced the rising of the curtain on a most tragic play.
See Jupiter? Is it like a dot in the sky, or what are we talking here? Probably all that, right? Oh! Rinosuke! My name is Rinosuke Naruhodo. I'm a fledgling lawyer just starting out on my journey. 6 months ago, I arrived as a visiting student of law. Your binoculars, that's sick. I've not seen it now. Having made the long voyage across the sea from the Empire of Japan to here, London, England. And on the way, in quite extraordinary circumstances, I made the acquaintance of a world-famous detective. Oh! Currently, I reside in the attic of the detective's own lodgings, from where I run my legal consultancy of sorts. I've successfully defended a number of clients in Britain's highest court, the Old Bailey. But since a particularly grueling and unforgettable legal battle 4 months ago now, I haven't returned to the courtroom. In truth, I lost my right to return. But that epic trial was just one small part of an epic tale, a tale which was now about to awaken from slumber. Thanks to a letter that arrived this morning from my homeland. Oh. What a delicious smell. Hi, Emmy. Alright. What a delicious smell wafting up the stairs. Must be nearly time for breakfast. I better go down to Mr. Sholmes' suite and say good morning to the great detective and his flatmate. Let's go! Go see the folks, huh? 30th of August, 7:28 AM, Sholmes' suite. Iris! Ah, Runo, good. I was just about to call up to you. The bacon's ready. Good morning, Iris. Oh, it's delicious as usual. Surrounded by Taekwondo training though. Reckon, boys, huh? Before we eat though, I have some news. I had a surprise this morning. Shh, not another word, Mr. Naruhodo. This could be just the abstruse thing of my pre-breakfast stagnation-repelling mental stimulation, my dear fellow. More to you too, Mr. Sholmes. There he is, Ah, yes, I see. So that's it. The truth is clear to me as day. My faculties of observation have revealed it again. Where's the do 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 do? Yeah, we're back at Renosuke Farrell. He got a letter from Japan, and he's just come downstairs to talk to Iris and Sholmes. What are you talking about? You, Mr. Naruhodo, you have, this very morning, met with a surprise. Well, is that not the case? Really, my dear fellow, it barely warrants explanation. Firstly, your hair is particularly unkempt, somewhat reminiscent of a bird's nest. Secondly, you have neglected to fasten the third button of your jacket. Clearly, when considered together, these two facts point to you haven't been flustered this morning. Can I talk now? But of course. I don't look for admiration, you understand. My hair always looks like this. It's been this way since I first met you. Oh, it has? And the button was ripped off last night, if you remember. By you. Hurley pulled your button off? Ah, yes. I recall the incident now. It was after supper, was it not? As the evening advanced, I picked up my violin and began to play the wailing notes of a haunting tune. But then, to my utter dismay, the third string snapped. Why did it have to happen? Why? Little wonder then that in my vexation I grabbed the first button I saw and ripped it from its proper place. Well, I get back now, please. It's troubling me that I can't fasten my jacket. And it's troubling me that you expect me to know where it is. Somewhere thereabouts on the floor, one presumes. Helpful. What matters at the present time, my dear fellow, is simply whether or not my deduction was unerring. But Hurley, Reno said when he came in, didn't he? I had a surprise this morning. Well, that really is a surprise. Yes, this man is the pride of the British Empire. The famous consultant detective, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes. There can't be a single person in the world who doesn't know his name. Alright then, enough of this silly conversation. Come and eat this bacon before it goes cold. And I have a new herbal tea for you to try too. My latest special blend. Iris, the inventor of guns. And here we have Iris Wilson, Mr. Sholmes' lodger and companion. A truly exceptional young girl who's the author of a highly successful serialization here in London. Yes, The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, as published in Rance magazine. Sometimes I wish you didn't know Sholmes' name. What do you mean? So, Mr. Naruhodo, won't you put us out of our misery? What surprised you this fine morning? Oh, no, it's great though. It's funny, in I think I mentioned this before, like when we played the first game, like, but in Japan, his name's just Sherlock Holmes. So it's implied that he is just, you know, he's the real life Sherlock Holmes, but they couldn't use the name for the localization, so they had to change it a little bit. But he's still implied to be Sherlock Holmes, that's just not what they call him in this universe. Oh well, I received a letter from Japan. Oh, from Susie, you mean? Was it really? That's right, and she had some rather startling news, in fact. Ah, intriguing indeed. You must tell us about it over breakfast. Oh yes, what fun. Put the letter. This is the letter that arrived from Japan this morning, by international post. Oh, how lovely. Look at Susie's beautiful handwriting. I wish I could read it. And how is your judicial assistant faring, may I ask? She's very well, thank you. In fact, according to what she's written, she actually appeared as a lawyer at the Japanese Supreme Court and won a case. Ah, really? Oh, isn't she wonderful? I can't above your good self, my dear fellow. I've won cases too, you know. Apparently, Mr. Natsume appeared in the trial as a witness. Natsume. No, I don't recall that name. Hi, Leo. Of course you do. We helped the man twice. You know, in those 2 cases that took place on Briar Road 6 months ago? Ah, the mustached, twitchy man with the somewhat feline eyes and the mustache. He didn't have 2 mustaches, Hurley. Yes, who could forget those 2 cases? They made a very deep impression on me. Although I must confess, the details are a little hazy now. A very deep impression they made on you, clearly. Startling news. So, what was this startling news penned by Mrs. Sato? Do you remember the case of the haunted lodgings, Mr. Sholmes? Ah, yes, it's very interesting, you know. I don't feel entirely uncertain that a case of that nature did not occur. He's totally forgotten then. Anyway, in her letter, Mrs. Sato asked that we read over her case notes again and investigate further. Though it took place half a year ago? For what purpose? Because of something that Mr. Natsume said to her, apparently. He suggested that the real reason why she was called back to Japan so suddenly might have something to do with that case of the haunted lodgings. Oh? On Mr. Natsume's return to Japan, Mrs. Sato's father questioned him about the case, she says. And something Mr. Natsume said appeared to trouble Professor Mikutaba, prompting him to send that telegram. Oh, that case, yes! Reminds me of Gilderoy Lockhart. I think we made that comparison in the first game as well, yeah. It was very strange, wasn't it? Yes. And I had compiled the whole story into a nice, neat manuscript ready for publication, too. But then Hurley here was all funny about it, remember? He was very mean. That story must not be published, he said. Very mysteriously as well. Really? I said that? Are you sure? Do you perhaps know something about it as well, Mr. Sholmes? About why Mrs. Sato was suddenly told 4 months ago that she had to return to Japan? It's been 4 months now since we weighed Susie off at Dover. It was such a shock, wasn't it? The way she just suddenly announced that she had to go back to Japan. Indeed it was, due to a telegram she received from her homeland, I believe. That's right. Telling her to return urgently. Yes, because her father had passed away. No, he just said he was suffering from a high fever, the cause of which is unknown. He's not dead. But according to this letter, that news about her father's fever was just a ruse. A ruse? So Susie's daddy lied to her so that she'd make the voyage back home? Why would he do that? I have to admit, I have absolutely no idea. But she believes it's almost certainly related to the case of the haunted lodgings. Summoning her back to Japan so suddenly like that. I wonder what Mrs. Sato's father is hiding. Hurley, do you know what it's all about? Oh, he's got his gear on, huh? Ah, well, who can say? But you said... Please, I have engagements, my dear fellow. My calendar is quite surprisingly full today. And a stringent analysis of the matter would be excessive, I feel, even if I were quite at leisure. So, man the fort in my absence, won't you, Iris? I will, Hurley, don't worry. See you later. Off he goes. He scuttled off rather quickly there. I think perhaps Professor Mikutaba isn't the only person hiding something here. Sosuke-san was involved in 2 cases, but only one of them was forbidden from being published. By, of all people, Mr. Sholmes. Aha, I found them at last. Iris, are they? The notes about the case? That's right. Susie and I compiled them together. I can't remember the exact details of the 2 cases that he was involved in, but once I get like a little bit of information about them, it'll probably like unlock my memory. And I'm like, oh, that's right. But right now I'm like, ugh. I know one of them involved the guy that looked like a moon. The case of the haunted lodgings. Do you want to read them, Runo? Absolutely. Thank you, Iris. I have no idea what secrets could still be hiding in the shadows of this case. But perhaps if I read over the notes again, something might come to light. That's the spirit. Shun? And so, Iris and I decided to read over the case notes again together. Everything from what happened to our investigation and that fierce battle in court that followed. Reliving every detail. I just need to find a clue. And I have all the time in the world. Because of course, I'm no longer allowed to practice law in the courts of Great Britain. Oh. Bit of a shame that. I wonder is Van Zieks, is he still the prosecutor, I wonder? The Ace Attorney series is well known for having like great prosecutor characters. I really like Van Zieks, so I'll be curious if he's still there or if he got someone new. Hasn't been that long, I suppose. You bet he is? Yeah, probably. It was 6 months ago, a mysterious incident that unfolded on the wintry streets of London. Ah, this one, yes. Well, this one I remembered. A young woman was found lying on the snowy pavement of Briar Road with a knife in her back. Didn't this knife, like, fall out the window when the people were fighting? Like, the guy was fighting with his wife, who dressed like a maid, and she was throwing stuff, and the knife went out the window. Hit the window and fell down and hit her in the back. Yeah. This one I do remember. I don't remember the lodgings one, though. Fortunately, her life was spared, but she was unconscious for several days following the incident. The fog was thick, and nobody saw her attacker, but by a cruel twist of fate, a visiting Japanese student was walking behind her at the time, and was duly arrested. Here he is. That man was Soseki-san, and the man who effected his arrest was Mr. Sholmes. Hey. Believing in our compatriot's innocence, Susato-san and I decided to represent Soseki-san in court. And after a grueling trial with many twists and turns, we finally managed to prove his innocence. Joyful, joyous, jubilant jubilation was the man's reaction after the trial, but his jubilant jubilation was short-lived. We received a telegram from Mr. Sholmes the following morning. The victim of the Briar Road stabbing has regained consciousness. Hurry to Bart's at once. So Susato-san and I summoned a hansom and headed immediately to the hospital. Oh, okay. Does that explain why I couldn't remember it then? Because we never actually played it. 21st February, 5:30 AM, St. Bartholomew's Hospital, Recovery Ward. There you are at last. Good morning, Mr. Sholmes. So Susato should be here then as well. I think not. Oh, there she is. You're late. What on earth took you so long? Your telegram only arrived at 5 o'clock, Mr. Sholmes, and it's a 20-minute ride to the hospital. That's right, and it's 5:30 now. You've given me a very good time. The time is utterly irrelevant. The fact is, I have been waiting for what has felt like an eternity. Ah. In point of fact, I myself was awoken at 4 this morning by a telegram boy. And feeling it was somewhat unjust that I alone had been roused at such an hour, I sent one to you. Well, thanks for that. Anyway, you're here now, so the victim is over there. She's only just regained consciousness. What's with the, You should introduce yourselves, and I shall observe from here. So that's the lady who was found on the snow-covered pavement with a knife in her back. Her name is... Ah, yes, here we are. Miss Green. Rodent. Eek! A mouse, Mr. Naruhodo, an enormous mouse. Vermin in a hospital. Doesn't seem the best. But it looks like a very healthy specimen, doesn't it? It's very plump. I'm not sure we can say that's down to the excellence of this facility, if that's what you were thinking. She looks like a hamster. Good morning. Hello, I'm, Rinosuke Naruhodo from the Empire of Japan. Fucking D&D NPCs, huh? I don't know what voice to give her, huh? Because there's Susato, who's like the general, like, girly kind of high-pitched voice. Doing, like, Pike? What's Pike sound like him? See, I can't hear myself either, like, well, I can, but it's kind of distorted, like, so. Fuck me. Oh no. Was it your knife that... Are you the man who... No. I'm a lawyer. And I'm Sasato Mikutaba. Pleased to meet you. Oh no, was it your knife then? Are you the one? No, I assure you, I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. We heard that you regained consciousness and wanted to come give you our best wishes. Best wishes? From me? Thank you. I'm Olive Green. I'm an artist. Well, no, that's not right, is it? What I mean is, I'm trying to be an artist. Well, what I really mean is, I desperately want to be an artist. But the truth is, I don't have any talent. I know I don't. It's no wonder I was stabbed in the back. I don't think that's related, actually. Gosh, this young woman seems to bend over backwards to put herself down. Huh. Seeing as we're here, we should ask her about what happened from her perspective, I suppose. What did it feel like when you were walking, and all of a sudden you get stabbed from above? Huh? Suddenly be struck in the back by a blade as you were walking along the pavement. What a terrible experience you had, Miss Green. It was so cold that day, and the fog was so thick, I couldn't see a thing. That was 4 days ago now, I think. Is that right? Yes, that's right. I'm afraid you've been comatose all that time. But the case has been solved, hasn't it? Well, I've been here in hospital, I mean. Indeed it has, my dear madam. Spectacularly by none other than I, Herlock Sholmes. Mr. Sholmes, you well know it was Mr. Naruhodo's hard work in court to solve the case. Are you yet to hear what happened, Miss Green? Yes, I'm afraid so. A gentleman from the police force is supposed to be coming by to fill me in shortly. That's right, wasn't there the cop who was like sort of corrupt at the end or something, wasn't he? Oh, I see. Me coming round seems to have made everyone frantically busy. I'm so sorry. I should never have regained consciousness. It was selfish of me. Jesus. Oh no, we're also relieved that you're on the mend, Miss Green. Really we are. That kind of attitude. Maybe her surname should be Blue, not Green. Gotti. So, you're an artist, are you, Miss Green? Oh no, I couldn't possibly claim that. I'm a fledgling artist at best. It's turning into fucking Dorothy from Wizard of Oz, eh? I mean, I'm a student of art, really. At the Thorndike Academy of Fine Arts. Oh my. An Academy of Fine Arts. Great Britain is such a wonderful country. Tell me, Miss Green, do you live hereabouts? Oh no, actually. I don't deserve it, but I have a little flat on Brixton Road. I see. How very interesting. Oh no, is it? Brixton is some 10 stops away on the underground from here, and Thorndike Academy is a mere 3-minute walk from Brixton town centre. Does that matter, Mr. Sholmes? Perhaps not, but Briar Road is a far less salubrious part of town by comparison, dwelt in by those of inferior means, including the maleficent Mr. Mustache. Inferior means? I suppose Sosuke-san does fit the bill. It struck me as somewhat out of the ordinary for a young fine arts student to be walking in such a district. That's all. What's this? She suddenly clammed up. Mr. Sholmes, you should be ashamed of yourself, prying into a young maid's private affairs. Oh dear me, do forgive me. If you don't mind. I'm being discharged shortly, so I need to pack up my things. Oh, yes, of course, we won't keep you. Thank you so much, Miss Green. That must be a bag of Miss Green's personal belongings. She would have been brought directly here after she was found stabbed on the pavement, though. I expect a friend or family member probably brought some things for her. Alright then, let's see what's inside. A change of clothes, no doubt, and... No, Mr. Naruhodo, you must never scrutinize a young maiden's personal belongings. But the young maiden might have chocolates, or biscuits, or caramel. Oh. This rounded wooden figure isn't the most charming, is it? I don't think that's a decoration, Mr. Naruhodo. It's an artist's mannequin, I believe. Used when practicing sketching the human form in different poses. Really? Not exactly what you call a typical figure for that purpose, though, is it? No, I suppose not. I confess I've never seen one quite so full figure before. Just drawing to her something is closer to her own proportions, I guess. Well, if you want to draw a full figure person, it's the right tool for the job. Who's in the footy? They're not being judgmental. They're just saying it's not the one you usually seen. But he said, like, if that's what you want to do, that's what you have. Look at the photograph in the frame here. Who this? Oh yes, it's a picture of a young gentleman. Why does it look familiar? Like, not an Ace Attorney, but something else. He looks to be about the same age as Miss Green, I would say. Perhaps the young woman's special someone, do you think? My, Mr. Naruhodo, I didn't know you had a sense for matters of the heart. Not in the least. I sincerely said the first thing I thought of. Well, I guess that's all to see here. If the dialogue is progressing. Is there a Mr. Narrowfodder here? Mr. Narrowfodder? Narrowfodder now? Well, if you're looking for Naruhodo, the lawyer, that's me, but... Ah! Mr. Narrowfodder, good! This is for you. It's a message from Mr. Saucy Nutmeg. That's Sosuke, right? Sosuke Natsume, right? Mr. Natsume? Send a message to me? Why would a policeman be delivering a message from Mr. Natsume? He's in fucking prison again! Exactly. What's going on? What's a Scotland Yard constable doing playing delivery boy at this time in the morning? Ah, what are you waiting for? Let me see that. Oh. Well, this is most unexpected. Is something wrong, Mr. Sholmes? Is something wrong, Mr. Sholmes, he says? Have you not seen this note? No, how could I have? It would seem that London's criminals have no intention of letting the great detective rest. A new case calls, a case of murder no less. We must depart at once. Murder? Call a cab. Time is of the essence. But the trouble is, we've yet to read Mr. Natsume's note. I was thinking about to pay him a visit in his lodgings once we did. That'll be entirely convenient. Convenient? What do you mean? It's all here in the note, my dear fellows. The murder we must investigate took place at Mr. Mustache's lodgings. There's the haunted lodgings, okay. Wait, what? I'll hit a... Huh? Fiacre. At once. Fiacre? Fiacre. It's only yesterday that Sosuke-san was in court. We were dispelling doubts about his innocence. And now, the very next day, there's a murder at the man's own address. He may very well be the unluckiest man alive. Or so it seemed to us at the time, but we were soon to discover it was worse than what we thought. Oh, Jesus. Oh, fucking hell. I wonder, is the murder victim a character we knew from the previous game? Or is it a new character? 21st February, 7:18 AM, Mr. Natsume's lodgings, ground floor. Oh, it's the fucking Shakespeare guy that we saw in the first game. To be fair, we did see him in the little introductory kind of thing for this adventure. What on earth? Oh my, the gentleman is deceased without question. He's dead. Look him, student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Mr. Natsume. Oh, why? Why is this happening? Why to me? I've only just got out of court yesterday. I was finally home after 2 days of misery. And then I wake up the next day to this. No early bird should catch a worm like this. Woeful worm without wiggle. I see you're in high spirits again this morning, Mr. Mustache. Ah! Not the horrible Herlock Sholmes. Shoo, shove off. Show yourself the door. I never invited you. Mr. Sholmes came here with us. I'm quite sure he'll be able to help you, Mr. Natsume. I'm entirely at your disposal, Mr. Mustache. What can I do for you? Oh, there he is. Man, there's chips, huh? Gregson. Here they are already. The busybodies. Ah, Inspector Gregson. What a pleasant surprise. What the fuck had happened? Like, cause he's friends with Iris, but something happened in the last thing. The guy that looked like a JoJo character with a big giant hat. Was he like paying Gregson off or something? There was definitely something, because Gregson was like on the stand. He fucked something up, or he hid information. It was because it was like the national secrets thing, right? It was like the information, and he covered it up or something like that to help Japan or something, or help England or something like that. Something like that. Dr. Gregson, what a pleasant surprise.
Redden, is it? Gives me heartburn every time I see your face at a crime scene, Sholmes.
His voice very easy to remember. Ha! I deduce, Inspector, that your heartburn is a result of your excessive consumption of fried food. Good morning, Inspector.
This is a crime scene. Don't you go touching anything.
Or, good morning to you too, Sunshine.
What's that?
What's that there?
Oi, I said hands off. You're gonna mess up my crime scene.
Oh, no, I just wanted to look, that's all.
No chance. I know you're kind. You'll mess it up by looking at it.
Ah, someone's in a bad mood. There's certainly some bad air in here, isn't there? Alright. Seems like I better talk to the inspector first and try to curry some favor. Alright, Gregson, let's go. So, Inspector, what was the victim's name? Who was he? Mr. William Shamspeare?
He's a lodger here. As you can probably tell, he was an actor. Bit of a dead loss as it happens. Or, just dead.
Mr. Shamspeare.
He was the landlord, old Mr. Garadeb, and the other lodger, Mr. Natsume, found him.
Mr. Garadeb was the one who has, the moon face. With his wife, Joan.
The fella didn't rise at his usual hour, so Garadeb got worried and kicked the door down.
But, doesn't Mr. Garadeb have a bad leg?
Ah, yeah, you're right there. It was that jittery Japanese hunchback over there who actually did the kicking.
Really? Sotsuki-san?
The victim was pretty hard up, it seems, even done some time inside for petty crimes. He had no money, no place to go, and no friends. His only acquaintances were the people in this house. Miserable life and a miserable end to it.
So, what exactly is Mr. Natsume still doing here? He's not involved in the investigation, so shouldn't you have sent him away from the crime scene?
Well, I'm not saying it's because the fella looks odd or anything, or that he acts suspicious. But I thought it would be prudent to take a statement from the cohabitor.
You nearly said culprit there, didn't you? Oh dear. Mr. Natsume appears to be under suspicion again. Certainly seems that way. He does just come across as such an odd fellow, doesn't he? Poor man. How unfortunate.
Anyway, I can't say much until the coroner gets here. But I don't think the fella's been gone that long. The body's still warm.
Even if the inspector would allow it, I don't think I could bring myself to touch a dead body. What if he's only acting dead, huh? Acting. Sotsuki. What a terrible thing to have happen. It's only been 3 days since I was arrested for the incident on the pavement outside. And then, having finally regained my freedom, it starts happening all over again. Endless existence of excruciating experiences. So the victim lived here on the ground floor, and your room is just one story up, isn't it? Yes, that's right. In a way, we were neighbors, I suppose. So did you know the victim? Were you friends? Stop looking so shifty, Sotsuki. What's the matter with Sotsuki-san now? It was an innocent enough question, wasn't it? Why does he seem so shaken by it? Well, I suppose he wasn't a complete stranger. But did he ever invite me to his room? Never! On my honor, I swear it! What an extreme reaction. You're probably wishing you'd never asked now, aren't you, Mr. Naruhodo? When we found him here, I felt wretched. That's why I sent word asking you to come. Drew that inspector over there! Fucking poses. Mr. Sholmes? What are you doing? Ha!
You need only observe to know it, my dear fellow. Investigating, naturally. There's nothing natural about that pose. Mr. Sholmes, have you made some miraculous discovery? Patience, my dear madam, patience. We've not been here in this room 5 minutes. So far, all I've managed to deduce is what actually happened. My goodness. But isn't that everything we need to know, Mr. Sholmes? Now that you propose the idea, I believe one could indeed see it that way. At the present time, I have managed to draw two incontrovertible conclusions. The first, that there was a physical struggle here last night in which the victim fought for his life. Mr. Natsume, what's wrong? Is something that Mr. Sholmes says significant somehow? No, don't mind me. Forget I was here. My second conclusion is that there was a poison lingering in the air here last night that passed the victim's lips. No, nonsense! Ah. Well, Suzuki makes it back to Japan, okay, so... Alright, Mr. Natsume, why are you reacting so extremely to Mr. Sholmes' deductions? No, please, pretend I'm not here. Invisible, ineffable, inscrutable, insignificant. Impossible to ignore. You must tell us everything, Mr. Sholmes. Spare no detail. But of course. Let the theatrical tragedy before us be unraveled by my great deductions, presented by your pleasure, for your pleasure, in 2 acts. Oh, we're gonna get the little deduction thing. Let's go. You've heard some truly astounding great deductions from Mr. Sholmes in the past. No doubt this will be no exception. What miracles will unfold before our eyes this time. So, my dear fellows, for your delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Herlock Sholmes' logic and reasoning, spectacular. Act 1. Let's go. Great deduction. The game is afoot. Topic 1. Cause. Death. Careful observation of the victim reveals to us the events that transpired in this disconsolate room last night. Foam with the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of poison. Okay, he reacted to the poison mentioned. Next to the victim, we notice a large dining plate which contains, you will observe, 1/2 of a sizable bar of soap. Meaningful? Indubitably. Why is this soap set so purposely upon the dish? Like the victim's last supper, in fact, yes. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the fork reveals the answer. It appears that the young man's appetite was his undoing. Taking up arms in the form of his cutlery, the victim engaged in a deadly battle for his life. Yet the struggle against his hunger was in vain, for in the end, he couldn't resist devouring the slippery feast. But London's foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the contents of the plate. Could be in the cup, right? The soap and the lather about the young man's mouth are too perfectly matched to ignore. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to excessive ingestion of foul soap. Though personally, I have a greater interest in the taste of foul candle wax, of course. Poisoning from soap ingestion. Topic 2. Suicide or murder. The cause of death identified, we proceed to Act 2, where we can ponder the next question. Was this suicide or murder? The audience will recall that death occurred during the victim's last supper. Did the man dine and die alone? The single teacup suggests the answer. To draw a conclusion on such meagre evidence would be foolish, however, certainly. The careful criminal could have absconded with his own cup to cover his tracks. Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow. Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock. Though forced open now, at the time of the incident, this door was locked. And the sole key was in the victim's pocket. In other words, when the victim consumed the poison, he must have been alone. Alone with his inferior soap, from whence wafted an inferior scent. And with that acrid aroma lingering in the air, the victim met his end, in tragic solitude. We can take comfort only in the fact that his soul was well cleansed on his way to the hereafter. Suicide then. No possible perpetrator present. Thus concludes the final act of Herlock Sholmes' great deduction. Fucking Natsume's like, the whole time, huh? There's just one thing, Mr. Sholmes. You are disposed to identifying just one thing, aren't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Pray, what concerns you? Well, no matter how hungry he was, do you really think the man would have eaten soap? It is quite apparent that this man had barely a penny to his name. It is a curious thing, but to one so destitute, soap can suddenly appear quite irresistibly appetizing. How extraordinary. In truth, I have tried a little soap myself in the past. You've eaten it, you mean? My dear fellow, it was some time ago now. My postulation was that it would cleanse my gut. And did it? As I writhed in agony on the floor and spilt the contents of my stomach? Yes, I believe it did. The experience taught me a valuable lesson. Soap is quite poisonous. It has an unpleasant taste and leads to great discomfort. In summary, I cannot recommend it. Don't need soap. Believe me, I wouldn't eat it even if you did. I love the music. Something that troubled me as well, actually. Oh, what's that? It's Mr. Natsume. Oh! I couldn't help noticing him shuddering and quivering out of the corner of my eye. Almost as if Mr. Sholmes' deductions touched a nerve somehow. No. Nonsense. Well, that clenched teeth episode didn't last. I think, judging by Mr. Natsume's reaction, the great detective's deductions may need some gentle corrections in order to reach the actual truth. Can't read again. Yes, Mr. Sholmes' observations and deductions are sometimes a little too sharp. He has a tendency to hit the nail on the side of the head and drive it in at an obtuse angle. When he does that, it falls to us to straighten things out. Alright then, let's see what we can do. Yes, we must pick out the key words in Mr. Sholmes' quite brilliant deductions, and discreetly exchange them for something that makes a little more sense. If we can do that, I'm sure we'll arrive at what Mr. Sholmes meant to say in the first place. In that case, are you ready for the second performance of the day? Once again, my dear fellows, for your continued delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Herlock Sholmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectacular, Act 1. Let's go. It's me! Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. The cause of death. Okay. Careful little observation of the victim reveals to us the events that transpired in the cess consulate room last night. Foam at the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of poison. I think you have to let it fully play through first, and then you can start pressing it. Next to the victim, we notice a large dining plate which contains, you will observe, 1/2 of a sizable bar of soap. Meaningful, indubitably. Why is this soap set so purposely upon the dish? Like the victim's last supper, in fact, yes. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the fork reveals the answer. Well, you can't deny that a fork implies the man was eating something or about to eat something. Yes, that's true. If I were to decide to eat some soap, I should prefer to use a fork rather than attempt it with chopsticks. And of course, only half of the bar of soap is left on the plate. But might there not be some other explanation? Something material that proves whether or not the man really ate some soap? Can't rotate too much here. Oh! Look! There's more soap on the floor here. Mr. Shams here must have really loved the stuff. Let's not jump to conclusions, Mr. Naruhodo. Look closely at this soap. Do you see that it would fit together perfectly with the half bar on the table? What the? How can that be? I think that they are two halves of the same bar that broke apart. Present it.
Take that!
Boom.
Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course. The other piece of soap reveals the answer. It being the other half of the soap on the table. In short, the victim was not eating soap at all. But it's obvious, really, for no depths of hunger could drive any man to attempt to eat soap. Even I, with my unquenchable thirst for practical knowledge, took only a single bite. But that begs the question of how the man was poisoned, because no sign of any food on the table. An excellent observation, Mr. Naruhodo, and one that furnishes us with the answer we seek. For London's foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the contents of the plate. Tainted the cup, maybe. Mr. Sholmes is still pushing the soap argument then. Perhaps he's suggesting the man licked the soap rather than ate it? If soap in London is that poisonous, I don't think I want to be washing my hands with it. But there are no signs of any food in this room at all. Of course, food isn't the only thing that passes people's lips, is it? Yeah, the teacup just right. Yes, a western vessel for the serving of infusions of dry tea leaves. It's a teacup, Mr. Naruhodo, as you well know. Stop putting on airs. I think that fucking Jimmy Neutron clip where he goes, sodium chloride. Like, fuck off, Jimmy. It's empty. So we've already established that the victim wasn't eating soap when he died. However, there's significant evidence to suggest that he was drinking tea. My thoughts exactly. I think the spill of it, or probably just a teacup, right?
Take that!
Boom! Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the teacup. Indeed, cups have been the vessel of choice for practicing poisoners over the centuries. And it would appear that this victim drank every last drop. There's no sign of food anywhere in the room. Which leads us to the immutable conclusion. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to the ingestion of poison contained in this teacup. There we go. Now we're getting the facts more. Poison in the tea. The cause of death identified, we proceed to Act 2, where we ponder the next question. Was this suicide or murder? The audience will recall that the death occurred during the victim's Last Supper. Did the man dine and die alone? The single teacup suggests the answer. There's also like a stain here right beside it. The western vessel for infused hot drinks again. It's already featured heavily in our deductions so far. The fucking cup of spell time. Yes, we can imagine that shortly before his death, Mr. Shamspeare was having a drink of tea. There would be nothing remarkable about that. But what troubles me is Mr. Natsume's reaction when he heard Mr. Sholmes suggest it. There's more to this deduction than it seems. We must closely examine the scene of the crime again for some more clues. There's a stain. Oh. Okay, the stain is not... Oh! You get another teacup! It's another western vessel for infused... It's a teacup! And it too is empty. Given that he's actually holding this one in his hand, we can assume this is the cup from which Mr. Shamspeare was actually drinking. But if that's the case, it changes everything. Everything we deduced up until now is turned on its head. I have a bad feeling about this. I almost don't want to say it. Yes, I know exactly how you feel. This other teacup
Take that!
suggests the answer. He was here with someone. Did the man dine and die alone? This other teacup suggests the answer. Yes, there were two teacups in this room all along. Huh. In other words, this is a strong indication that at the victim's Last Supper, there was a guest present. At the very least, we can say now with certainty that somebody else was here in this room last night, taking tea with the victim. What are you talking about? Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable. To draw a conclusion on such meagre evidence would be foolish, however, certainly.
In which case, what more can we deduce about this possible guest at the table? Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow. Do you mean to say you know exactly who was in this room at the time of the victim's death? Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock. I don't think so. I'm not sure where I like this deduction is going now. I'm afraid it's too late to go back to the halcyon days of eating too much soap. But the identity of the guest who was in here last night when the victim passed away is something I have a very bad feeling about. Well, you can try to ignore your feelings, but we cannot ignore the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. No, I suppose not. Time to look around again. I didn't realize that the word halcyon was actually a word I just associate with Star Wars. The books, the bottle. What's the candle? Even Mr. Shamspear didn't need candles, it seems. We've already established that he didn't need soap either. How do you think perhaps the guest brought this candle here last night? You know if he or she does it reveal anything about the guest's identity? Good point, there goes my idea. Snuffed out that candle will be. If you sigh so deeply, Mr. Naruhodo, you're in danger of blowing out the flame. Sosuke likes books, right? He has like all books in his room. At first glance, it seems that the only things in this room are the makeshift stage and the costumes. I overlooked these 3 books initially. Wonder what they are. Let's see. The titles read: The Picture of Monsieur Le... Monsieur Lecoq. Canterbury Yearnings and... A Meal for... Wait, I'm sure I've heard those titles before. It could just be an incredible coincidence, but they're the exact same 3 books that Mr. Natsume purchased the other day. What? It's on the day of the unfortunate incident when Miss Green was stabbed. Sosuke-san had just been to a bookshop and bought them. That's right. Yeah, that's right. I remember the bookshop was very important to the case. The location of it. And now those 3 titles are here in the room of the victim. Yet Mr. Natsume claims never to have been here before. What does this mean, do you think? I really don't know what to make of it. Pile of familiar books. Oh, Jesus.
Take that!
Indeed. What reveals the answer, of course, is the pile of familiar books. Quite so. It's no mere coincidence that these 3 titles are here in this room. It's the link to the truth. Oh! Mr. Natsume, you purchased these books 4 days ago at a second-hand bookshop. That's just coincidence. In that case, you'll be able to bring the same 3 titles from your own room, will you not? This very moment. Sosuke, come on, man. What are you doing? No, never. Not negotiable. If you can't bring your own copies here, it proves that these 3 books are in fact yours. Having purchased the books 4 days ago and returned to your lodgings, you were arrested the very next day. So you could conceivably have brought the books here on that evening, but you never mentioned that. In other words, you could only have brought these 3 books here to the victim's room. Last night, having returned to your lodgings after the trial concluded at the Old Bailey. In short, there is only one possible conclusion. The victim died here in his room last night as a result of poisoning. And that same night, the victim had a visitor. And that visitor... Ryunosuke's face. Was you, Mr. Sosuke Natsume. Thus concludes the final act of Herlock Sholmes' great deduction. Oof. Sosuke Natsume at the scene. Oh dear, it's not looking good. Elementary. Not again, not again, not again. Not again!
Is he just like the master of like wrong place, wrong time?
Well then, Mr. Natsume. It would appear you're going to have to accompany me down to the yard. Again.
But wait. Hold your horses.
Yes.
Door, key, locked. Entry, exit, entirely impossible. He's so flustered he's being even stranger than normal.
What? You think that's an alibi? You could have just made a copy.
What?
You live in the same building after all. You'd have had plenty of opportunity, I'm sure.
But. Misery me.
Or yeah, I am. Sorry, sir. You'll get your chance to give your side of the story later.
The facts speak for themselves, Mr. Mustache. You horrible Herlock Shums.
He really has found himself an arch rival now, hasn't he? Come on now, no dilly-dallying.
What? Has Gregson got a big fucking thing of fish in his fish and chips now? You can see why he left.
Yeah. Outside there's a carriage waiting.
Welcome, student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. I never imagined I'd be in this position again, but you have to help me. Please, please. I'm innocent.
Alright, I understand. We'll come to your cell later and talk about it.
One more thing.
Oh, yes?
Talk about his cat, right? Yeah. my poor little kitty cat. Please give him his breakfast for me.
And so, his evil curse still apparently unbroken, Sosuke-san found himself once again the prime suspect in a case of murder. Thanks to the incriminating deduction of the great detective.
My dear fellow, that honor belongs to you.
It's interesting that one of our cases is like during the events of the first game. Well, at least that means Inspector Gregson's no longer here. We can examine the crime scene in more detail now.
Yes, that's right.
And of course... What?
Have you forgotten what the inspector mentioned before? It was the landlord, Mr. Garadeb, who discovered Mr. Shamspear.
Ah, Mr. John Garadeb, yes.
I expect we could find him in his sitting room on the top floor as usual.
Strange man, so. All his military medals and stuff. Right, we must remember to go and talk to him later then.
Is this like a part of the costume? Or is this like separate? Oh.
Nothing particular of note. Oh, this thing.
What's this?
Looks like part of an envelope, I think.
Yes, I think you might be right. Perhaps it was torn off when the letter was opened.
Is that significant?
Well, it's a little out of place, perhaps. When you look around the room, there's no sign of a letter, or the rest of the envelope, in fact, is there? Ah, you're right. And yet here we have the torn off end of an envelope. It just strikes me as unusual.
I agree. We better take this just in case.
Yoink! Torn off end of envelope, a ripped piece of an envelope that was found in Mr. Shamspear's room. The rest of the envelope could not be located.
Look at these extravagant, bright costumes. Somehow, they look out of place in this room with its grim, shady goings on.
This one looks like a king's attire.
A king? What was your into being a king?
Oh, I think he'd be more suited to a feudal lord. A daimyo or such like.
With a chonmage topknot? Every Japanese man wishes he had a chonmage. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation.
Oh, you look so wonderful with one, and you already have the sword.
Can you imagine what would happen if I walked around the streets of London with a fucking word again, huh?
I'm getting pinged on Slack again of that same bloody chat.
Tomorrow's gonna be fun! Yep. We're right, boys. Let's go.
Chonmage and the sword.
You're right.
And here we have another disproportionately large machine. This looks like a meter of some kind. This is a gas meter, I think. It seems that in this district, residents pay for gas as they use it with coins. I see. Yes, now you pointed it out. I can see that there's a slot just here that looks like it would take a coin. So you mean if you put a coin in here? That's right. I would buy you about 2 hours of gas for lights and heating. So if you were a poor person with no money, you had to sleep in the freezing cold. What? Huh? What? Imagine that, huh? Yes, or if you were a scatterroom with no change because you forgot to exchange your money at the bank. Thank goodness there's no meter in our office. Nope, it's just nothing. Is this anything? This is some sort of makeshift stage, I think, isn't it? Where does the audience sit, though, for the nightly Shakespeare performances? Actors aspiring to the great stage must practice their art, Mr. Naruhodo, with or without an audience. In fact, on a related note, perhaps you should set up a mock bench for the defense in your office. What? Then you can practice your art every single day. I'll think about it. If you promise to don a beard and play the role of the judge. Well, if that would help you achieve your goal. This I have to see. Told you about those vouchers everyone got because of the energy costs and shit? Yes, I remember that discussion. Yep. This is a gas wall light, isn't it? Must be connected to a gas pipe in the wall. Gas lights, a gas stove. London really is a city of gas. Now that I think about it, Mr. and Mrs. Gardeb had an open fire on the top floor, didn't they? Oh yes, you're right. I don't recall seeing a gas stove up there. Well, I much prefer a real fire anyway. So much cozier. Right, time to look at the body. Oh, a bit the windy. As you've seen from the outside, the window is completely bricked up. A vestige of the former window tax that Britons had to pay. What strange things they used to tax in Great Britain. I mean, making people pay for the number of windows they had in a property? It's extraordinary. It's heartbreaking to think of the poor having to block up their windows just to avoid an unaffordable tax. Oh! What is it, Mrs. Sato? If you look closely, a number of these bricks are loose. Oh, they are they? More soap. Oh yes, it looks as though an amateur has broken out a few of them just here. Was it Mr. Shamspear did it, I wonder? Being the lodger renting this room. Ah, look at this, Mr. Naruhodo. On the outside, there's a little ledge. And there's something on it. What? Outside? Soap. You can't actually use it for smaller purchases in normal shops because they can't give you much change back and you always got to use the whole €50 voucher. Gonna have to go and exchange it for cash then. Always extra steps then. It's so cold outside. You can feel it through this gap. It did snow all last night too, it would be cold. But more importantly, what is it on the ledge right there? What are those snow-covered lumps? It's more bars of soap. Soap? What are bars of soap doing lined up on the ledge outside the window? I have no idea. But the pair of them look rather charming like that. Still, that's very strange, isn't it? Bars of soap lined up outside the window. I think perhaps we should take one. There are two after all. Oh dear, I suppose we could. Oh, what's this? Look here at this soap. Huh. Do you see in the middle there? There's a patch that's a different colour. It's sort of transparent, but some sort of fancy design, I suppose. Only in Great Britain. It looks like the Kinomaru flag of Japan, doesn't it? How wonderful. It's probably a very expensive brand. Expensive? Then what's it doing in this ramshackle old room? Mine now. Bar of soap. A cheap bar of soap that was discovered just outside Mr. Shamspear's window. It's one of two that were found there. Interesting. There's not much on these shelves, is there? Just this wine glass and bottle. And both of them are cracked. Yeah, it's not much use, are they? What's the matter? Oh. I was just reminded of the Reaper, that's all. Oh yeah. Van Zieks and his wine, huh? Beachmap coming along nicely. Oh, nice. Prosecutor Lord Van Zieks. Yes, he's so reckless with his wine glasses. I was thinking it's a waste and they should donate some to the needy. You can suggest it next time we meet. Alright, let's check out the body. Oh, and the poor man. So young to die. Do you suppose it was a very painful death, being poisoned as he was? I don't know. All we can do now is hope that he'll be reborn to a better life. Yes, I suppose you're right. I wonder. Do you think that putting our hands together in a Japanese prayer will help a British soul? Sorry? I made sure I had a reference at the ready for just such an occasion as this, actually. This book is entitled The Beginner's Guide to Praying for the Departed, the British Way. I'll just reread it now, one moment. There's quite a spine on that book, isn't there? The teacup. One of the teacups that Mr. Shamspeare and his guests drank from last night. But don't go drinking from them, Mr. Naruhodo. There's bitter poison inside. Not planning on drinking any, don't worry. Anyway, the cups are both empty. That's true. So, one was Mr. Shamspeare's, and the other must be the cup that Mr. Natsume was drinking from. But Sotsuki-san wasn't poisoned, of course. Perhaps we should take these so we can examine them in more detail later. Yoink! Pair of teacups. The teacups used by Mr. Shamspeare and Mr. Natsume. The one with the green line around the rim was Mr. Natsume's. Okay. Oh, looks like you're having a good snip around, eh? Who's this? Gregson. Inspector Gregson, but back so soon? After I threw that little Japanese fella in the clink, I went and reported this to the investigative division. In 5 minutes' time, this place will be cordoned off by the yard. Oh, I see. Well, we better be leaving then. Poor Mr. Natsume must be feeling very low being back in the cell again so soon. I fucking told you he wasn't dead. Hey, I'm sure we should probably go and... What's wrong with you, Naruhodo? Acting. Ah! Out, a brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player. That struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. Now, how soundeth the next part?
It is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Indeed, oh happy day! What? Walking Dead! Man just went floop.
The fella isn't dead at all.
What was that nonsense he was saying, though? I think... Yes, it was from William Shakespeare's Macbeth. A soliloquy from Act 5, Scene 5. Shakespeare. Like Willie Shakes him. So it was that the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare, came back to life. If the man had indeed been poisoned, it transpired that it hadn't killed him. He was taken by emergency carriage to a nearby hospital for treatment. And Inspector Gregson evicted us from the scene of the crime. Whatever that now was. Interesting. I kind of thought that idea because he was an actor. Yeah. I think that guy's from last game as well. There's a couple of characters who showed up at the very end of last game who didn't really do anything. Shamspeare was one of them. I think this guy was one of them too. 21st of February, Briar Road. Whatever do you think will happen now? Good question. What a strange situation for Mr. Natsume. Arrested for murder, but then the victim comes back to life. I think perhaps the victim was never dead in the first place. It seems very likely that Mr. Shamspeare did consume poison as we deduced. What was it, an accident? Attempted suicide? Or attempted murder? Until the truth can be established, I imagine the police will keep Mr. Natsume in custody. I suppose so. Let's hope it doesn't come to anything more than a night in the cells. Oh, what's this? Popeye. Oh, there's the soup on the ledge. What's that man doing over there? He looks like he's trying to see into Suzuki-san's lodgings. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Excuse me, could we have a word? Ah! Oh, him gone. He just ran off. I feel sure that I've seen that man somewhere before. Where was it? It was at the end of the last game, Susaru. I do too, but I don't remember. Check out the soup. With the exception of the top floor, Mr. and Mrs. Gardeb live, all the windows are bricked up. Yes, that's because of an old window tax that was charged on the number of windows the property had. In order to pay less tax, the poor members of society filled in many of their windows. But the tax has been abolished, hasn't it? So the windows could all be opened up again, surely. Unfortunately, it would appear that the residents of this district can't afford to pay to have their work done. Yes, that is a sad state of affairs. Damn landlords, so. Especially for people like poor Mr. Natsume, who have to live all cooped up in a windowless room. I suppose that's the price you pay for living in very cheap accommodation. It all seems rather pointless when you put it like that. But the soap... Ah, fuck. The Gardeb household and Mr. Natsume's lodgings are in a prominent position there on the corner. Sometimes when I look at the building, I can't help feeling that it's a bit of a slant. It does rather look as though it would collapse in even the smallest earthquake, doesn't it? It isn't supposed to be haunted as well. I think I might have a hunch as to why Suzuki-san is such a hunched back. Whose bike is this? There always seems to be a bicycle outside the Gardeb residence. I read that bicycles are extremely popular all over Great Britain at the moment, in fact. That one seems very warped though, especially the front wheel. Does that make it more of a challenge to ride, do you think? No, I'm afraid that may be a result of the rider's incompetence. For the front wheel to be so badly warped, I'm afraid the rider may have been very similarly affected. Then there's a good chance Mr. Natsume has been practicing on this bicycle, I think. Oh dear. I fear you may be right. Just like the way like dogs reflect their owners, and bikes do as well, apparently. Snowman. Why somebody built a snowman on some sort of pedestal, do you think? That's not a pedestal, Mr. Naruhodo. It's part of the snowman's body. Really? But it already has a perfectly good body. Well, it's true that British snowmen are usually made with 2 balls of snow. Perhaps this is a foreigner. And now we're looking at him as if he's strange. Poor man, I know how he feels. If anything, it's Japanese and British 2-ball snowmen that are the strange ones, isn't it? After all, real people do have 3 sections. Head, torso, and legs. Do you ever think that perhaps you think about things too much? More like the American style, isn't it? New location's been added. The Gardeb's room and prison. The suite on the top floor of the house where Mr. Natsume has his lodgings occupied by the landlord, Mr. Gardeb, and his wife. The window looks out over Briar Road below. Let's go. 21st of February. The Gardeb's room. Here we are again. The eccentric landlord's eccentric top floor abode. We're here because Mr. Gardeb's the one who discovered the incident this morning, don't forget. There he is, huh?
Ah, you chaps, eh?
Yes, good morning, sir.
Thank you for your cooperation in court yesterday.
It was quite a trial. As much for Mr. Gardeb as anyone, really.
Came straight back here after all the business of the Bailey yesterday. Didn't expect to wake up to more bally nonsense this morning.
I wonder... If you wouldn't mind telling us exactly what happened, Mr. Gardeb.
Yes, I suppose you'd like to know all about that dead loss of an actor chap in the ground floor room.
Those were exactly Inspector Gregson's words, weren't they? This cup has vanished. It's funny seeing him from the front, you can't tell the shape of his head. It's intentional, obviously, because when he turns, it's like, whoa! Moon Man. Must have been a real shock for you this morning. I hear that you discovered what had happened.
Ah, well. That hopeless actor chap rises at 5 o'clock sharp every morning without fail. But at 5:30 this morning, he still hadn't lit the gas. So I went down and knocked on his door, but no bally answer. And that's when you broke into his room by kicking down the door? Well, I called on that rum-looking Japanese chap to do the grunt work, of course. Wasn't it a little premature to kick the door down? The man could have just overslept by half an hour. That's very true, Mr. Naruhodo. If 30 minutes oversleeping warranted his behavior, I'd have to kick your door down every morning. Well, you know, better to be safe than sorry and all that. It's just me, or is he avoiding our gaze now all of a sudden? Except that it was a sorry situation indeed that you found on the far side of the door. Why was he so nervous? Can we look at our court records? Can we inspect anything yet? Whoever opened this envelope didn't bother with a letter opener or scissors, did they? Yes, whoever opened it was clearly someone with an unrefined temperament. And judging from the angle of the rip here, the person in question must have been right-handed. Mrs. Sato. I think perhaps someone's been reading too much of the Adventures of Herlock Sholmes. You can never read too much of it, Mr. Naruhodo. Never! You guys no, like, name or anything on it. This one's missing the little red thing. Oh. What is it, Mr. Naruhodo? This bar of soap. When we first found it, I could have sworn there was some sort of round disc in this depression just here. A reddish one. Oh. Did it, like, melt or something? Yes, you're right. I remember it too. But now the depression is completely empty. Where could the disc have gone? The little reddish medallion from the center has mysteriously vanished. Odd. This is the teacup from which Mr. Natsume was drinking. Yes. Unlike the other one, the inside of this cup is completely clean. I suppose he must have drunk the contents before the tea had a chance to leave a mark. I always gulp it down too. Sorry, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, if you just sip it little by little, it goes cold. Clearly, I shall have to instruct you the proper way to take tea. You autocorrect this field spread all about your plushie. I'm seeing your mess here now. 450 bucko, say? Jeez. So there's no tea ring on the inside of Mr. Naruhodo's cup. Or Mr. Natsume's cup, sorry. This must be the cup that Mr. Shamspear was drinking from then. It's stained on the inside. Tea does that, I'm afraid, even green tea. Oh, really? I've never noticed before. You've never noticed? Well, I never leave it in the cup long enough to leave a mark. I like to gulp it down. Drink tea while it's hot. That's the Japanese way, isn't it? Oh dear. So many people seem to have the wrong idea about our culture, and most of them are Japanese. Oof. Nothing on like the bottoms of the cups or anything? Okay. Okay. Just thought I'd have a look. Mr. Shamspear. Victim's name is Mr. Shamspear, I believe. Is that right? Yes, William Shamspear. Took the ground floor room 3 months ago now. And how would you describe him? In a word, destitute. Destitute? Well, let's face it, the only redeeming feature of that room is the cheap rent. Anyone wanting to live in a place like that is either broke or has a bally screw loose. So hard to choose which category Soseki-san would fall into. Mr. Naruhodo, that's a little rude. He was doing research as well. Research? Into what? Shakespeare, of course. Shakespeare! Read a few plays of the old bard myself, you know. Romeo and Hamlet and all that. Yep, that's my favourite one. Yes, William Shakespeare is England's most highly regarded classical playwright and author. He's known as Sao in Japanese, you know, and many of his works have already been translated. It seems incredible that Shakespeare was shortened to Sao, though. It's almost too heavy-handed there. Is that true? There were a lot of costumes in the victim's room, actually, weren't there? Of course, Mr. Natsume is a scholar of English literature as well.
I imagine he and Mr. Shamspeare would have had much in common. That's cool. If that's true. Shakespeare in Japan. What do they call Shakespeare in Japan? Sao? Yeah, okay. From 1868 to the end of the Taisho era, which is 1912 to 1926, Shakespeare became so naturalized in Japan that he assumed his own Japanese name, Sao. Japan's opening up to the West in the late 1800s coincided with the heyday of the British Empire and Shakespeare's propulsion to the status of a worldwide literary icon. Cool. Jesus, there's so much posted in that group chat, huh? Fucking hell. Ugh. Shakespeare interpretation disagreement leads to shocking murder. Let's hope it's not that. Mr. Naruhodo, really? How rude. Yesterday's events. After Mr. Natsume's trial yesterday, you came straight back here, I believe, didn't you? Did you notice anything strange between then and this morning? Well, now. Must have been about 6 in the evening by the time I got home. Snow was coming down rather heavily, as I remember. It was completely dark already. That failed actor chap was out at the time. Mr. Garadeb noticed there was no light from his room or something, I suppose. Couldn't summon the energy for anything much, so I just sat in front of the fire up here. It was after 8 before Shamspeare got back. I know. Usually it is. But I don't usually get fucking pinged after work hours, you know. And the chap was up until past 1 in the morning, I'll have you know. Suppose he met his end sometime after that. I was asleep by then, so I'm rather in the dark there. Well, thank you. That was very illuminating. I think it's because usually I mute my notifications at the end of the workday, and because I wasn't in today, I didn't do it. That's probably why. Is everything alright, Mrs. Sato? Well, I was just thinking it's a little strange, that's all. Mr. Garadeb, you were up here in your room all evening, if I've understood correctly. Not a big fan of stairs, not with this blasted leg. Then, how is it you seem to know? The precise movements of your tenant on the ground floor, I mean. Ah! That's a very good point. I can't imagine that you could hear noises from the ground floor all the way up here. Does this old man like to spy on his tenants? Is that it? I say, I know what you're thinking. It's a bally outrage. I'm ex-military, don't you know? Couldn't forget it, then. I don't go around spying on my tenants. Why would I? Then how did you know, Mr. Garadeb? It's the gas woman. The gas tells me everything. To be fair, he did say he hadn't turned on the gas yet. Yeah. The gas? What on earth do you mean, sir? How can the gas tell you anything, let alone everything? Well, as you're probably aware, the gas is supplied to the building by pipes. Yes, I more or less worked that out. Every room in the building is connected by a single pipe to the gas main outside. And the gas company supplies gas to properties via the main. Yes, I understand that too. Let me see if I can explain. Let's say I was to light the gas lamps up here. What do you suppose would happen? Well, obviously the room would get brighter. Exactly. But at the same time, the lights in all the other rooms of the house would dim for a moment. What? They dim? Why? Perhaps it's because when you light a gas lamp, it briefly uses more gas than usual? And that reduces the amount of gas in the pipe for the other lamps that are connected to it? Fuck, that sounds awful, huh? It's like dial up a gas, huh? That might explain why the other lamps dim momentarily, mightn't it? Yes, of course, because everything's connected to a single supply pipe. Is that supposed to happen, though? It sounds rather undesirable. Jolly good point. Fact is, the gas company's pipes in these parts are pretty hopeless. Long worn out. Barely got any gas in them to start with. Opposite's also true, of course. Extinguish the lamps up here and they glow brighter in the rest of the house. Ah, right, I see. So by watching the flickering of the lamps in one room, you can determine what's happening elsewhere. Sad with a 5 head. Yeah, she's good.
You've got it.
Of course, because when people come back home in the evening, and before they go to sleep at night, what they're guaranteed to do is either light or put out their lamps and fires. Clever. Clever, me saying it. Clever girl. In point of fact, the room on the ground floor and the one above it use slightly different amounts of gas. By watching the lights in here closely, I can work out almost exactly what's going on in the whole house. Gosh. That's fascinating, Mr. Gardev. Absolutely fascinating. Oh well, nothing to it really. And I can't really see that it's going to help us with the case either. But I'd like to know. That's why Mr. Gardev is so interested in what his tenants are up to in the first place. Landlord sign. I feel like there's more to it than idle curiosity. Well, we've done as much investigating here as we can, I think. Perhaps we ought to go to the prison and speak with Mr. Natsume again. A good idea. Goodbye, Mr. Gardev. I'll be back. Oh god, he's Blair Witching. 21st of February. Local prison. Cell 9. Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Mr. Natsume, had the police finished questioning you now? Locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Oh, yes? What is he? Tell me. Is he a ghost? Is he here to haunt me? Let me guess. You're talking about Mr. Shums? He actually calls himself a great detective, Mr. Natsume, not a ghost. But his diabolic deductions, they're not of this world. They've left me. Cursed. I'm cursed, I tell you. Well, that sort of hurts. Credit where credit is due, Mr. Naruhodo. You were heavily involved in the deduction too. Yes, moving on. We have some wonderful news. Oh. The victim that we all thought was dead has come back to life again. Now, in the absolute worst case, you could only be tried for attempted murder. That's great, isn't it? Mr. Natsume? It's terrible! Oh. I'm stuck in this cell, suffering for some silly wrong end of the stick. You did it, didn't you? Confess. You're a killer. Why the mustache? Constant questions. I'm sorry to hear that. Ah, that selfish shyster. Make up your mind. Are you dead or alive? If you're going to come back to life, why bother dying? Wickedly wishy-washy William. Well, it seems likely that Mr. Shamspeare was never actually dead in the first place. Ah, yes. Might make sense. I'm pleased that he's alive, of course. Gotta get snoozing. Alright, Noodle, no worries. Hope you sleep well. I love you loads. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Good night. Our lively debate last night was so much fun. It'd be sad to think it was our last. Oh. Oops. And he's just admitted he was there. Mr. Natsume, does this mean that you did see the victim last night? You met with Mr. Shamspeare, didn't you? I'm not saying another word. I demand to have a lawyer present. Who do you think I am? Please, Mr. Natsume, we need to hear your side of the story. Oh. Why am I cursed like this? Give us the deets, man. We need the deets. What happened? Can you tell us exactly what happened last night then, Mr. Natsume? There's nothing to tell, but Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, I'm eternally grateful to you for helping me with that cursed case yesterday. The case of Saw, Permis Green hospitalized after she ended up with a knife in her back. Oops, sorry. It's hard to believe that was only yesterday. After the trial was over, I trudged my weary way back to my lowly lodgings. And that evening at past 9 it must have been, I visited Mr. Shamspeare. So you did go to the victim's room then? As we feared. I didn't do anything wrong. I'd never been to his room before. It was the first time.
Then, what made you decide to go? I bumped into him when I arrived back at the house. We got chatting and developed into a discussion. But he had to go out, so I bade him farewell. That ties him, Mr. Gardeb said. That the victim went out and came back after it. We met again later that evening at around 9 or just after. When I took him some nice tea I brewed as a gift. So it was you who brought the tea that had clearly been drunk at the scene then? And I suppose you were discussing the works of Shakespeare, weren't you? Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Romeo and Juliet. Who was the stronger? It was a delightful debate. I'm sure. Such a stimulating subject, Shakespeare. And the debate became very heated, so you slipped poison into Mr. Shamspeare's tea? No, never. Not at all. Team Juliet won, that was me. And when I left his room, the flamboyant fellow was fighting fit, I swear it. Categorically.
Cursed existence, huh? Poor guy.
Mr. Natsume, you often say the same thing about yourself, I've noticed. That you have a cursed existence. I'm sure I've mentioned this to you before, but I've been here in Great Britain for a year now. And in that time I've learned that it's no place for me.
And then he fucking goes, he's like, I'm going back to Japan.
It can be very trying to live in a foreign land and adapt to the ways of another culture. There are foreigners everywhere I look. And they all stare at me, they all laugh. That's the impression I get whenever I go out. Makes me scared to leave my room. Which is why I've become a recluse. But even in my room, I find no respite from my fears. I've moved more times than I can remember, and then, 1 week ago, I moved into Briar Road.
But why? I mean, why did you choose that place? Doesn't seem very comfortable.
Because the rent is cheap. I have so little money, it spoke to me.
The rent?
Obviously, there's a reason why it's cheap. Because the room is cursed.
Cursed? Cursed how?
The previous occupant, the man who lived there before I took the room, died there. Oh no! He's only a young man, but one morning he was found dead and no one could explain why.
Surely no one wants to live in a room with a history like that.
I didn't. When the letting agent recommended the place, I wavered. But I want books! And books cost money! A horrible history is a small price to pay. When I realized it would mean I could buy more books, I signed the lease like lightning.
Brave or blinkered?
After I moved in, I soon came to realize what I'd done. I realized how horrible that room's history really was.
Gosh, was it really so awful? Yeesha. Horrible history. Hey. I used to read those when I was a kid. Then they made a TV show of them. When I was like a late teenager.
How did the room's horrible history affect you, Mr. Natsume? What happened?
I heard the show was good. It wasn't my jam.
At first it was just a feeling. The feeling of beady eyes boring into my back, watching me.
You think it might have just been your mind playing tricks on you?
No. My mind doesn't know any tricks. It was someone else. It's been one long nightmare ever since I was given the keys to that place.
Nightmare? You having bad dreams, you mean?
All the souls who've died in that room lean over me in my sleep.
Jesus.
And try to strangle me.
Sleep paralysis demons, plural. That really is horrible.
And now I come to think of it, it happened again last night too. The very same night that Mr. Shamspeare was writhing in agony from the poison in his body. I was on the verge of being suffocated silently by those miserable spirits in my room.
You simply must move out of that room as soon as possible.
Yes, you're right, I know it. That's why I'm already searching for the next room with a history to call home.
What about a room without any history?
I think perhaps you should try to avoid accommodation with any kind of history at all.
Otherwise,
I'm scared that you yourself may become history.
So Sato-san knows how to make the man listen. Yeesh, I fucking cut him to the bone.
Of course. Mr. Lord of the Manor is worried about the curse of my room as well.
You mean Mr. Gardeb?
Yes. He knows that if people keep dying there, he'll never be able to rent it out again.
Well, that's true. I, for one, wouldn't go near the place.
Ah, perhaps That may explain why the landlord pays so much attention to the gas lamps and his tenants' movements. You mean because he's worried about their well-being? What? A landlord worried about the well-being of their tenants, eh? Oh, Susato, huh? Solid yoke, eh? Solid yoke. Oh, one sec. Must be a reason why he keeps such close tabs on the occupants of his let rooms. What do you mean he pays so much attention to the gas lamps? Oh dear, no, it's nothing to do with you, Mr. Natsume. Please forget I said anything. Oh, now you're talking about me behind my back as well. What's important is that Mr. Shamsphere isn't in fact dead at all. Once he's come round and is able to tell us what happened, we'll be able to get you released. Now, is he actually going to be killed now? Like, is something going to happen? He's like actually dead now. Yes, please. I do hope you're right. Excuse me. I assumed it was Gregson. Inspector Gregson. I couldn't help overhearing what you just said. And on that note, I have some good news and some bad news. Oh. What do you want first? Always. Every time. The bad news comes first. When hope is all you have, hold on to it. That's my guiding principle. Right, well, in that case, the good news it is. Oh. Sorry, but it's just a lot easier to explain everything that way. Then why did you ask me my preference? As you might have heard, the victim, Mr. Shamsphere, was just unconscious. He's come round now. Yes, we saw it happen in all its terrifying glory. He's still being treated by the doctors, but we've managed to get a written statement from him already. Oh, isn't that wonderful, Mr. Natsume? Oh, thank goodness. It's all over then. I can leave this somber cell. That's the bad news, isn't it? Sorry, no. That's not on the cards. What? Why ever not, Inspector? Mr. Shamsphere has implicated someone as being responsible for what happened last night. Implicated someone? Oh dear. You don't mean... I'm sorry to say I do, yes. He's pointed the finger at you, Mr. Natsume. Oh! By sweet poison did he seek it to end my life. That wicked caitiff, Sosuke Natsume. Oh. I'm afraid you'll be appearing in court as planned. We'll be wanting to make the necessary preparations. Hurry, him. No! What a shit one. And so, once again, Sam found himself having to take the dock in the Old Bailey. Whether his room was haunted, or whether he was just terribly unlucky, I knew I had no choice. The following day, I would represent him in court, and do my utmost to break the curse that blighted him. Just so unlucky, man. So unlucky. Nope. I'm actually going to end stream there for tonight. A little bit early, not a full 2 hour 15 or so stream, but getting a bit of sore throat, so I'm talking a lot. And it's actually a good place to leave it anyway. At a good save point before we head into the trial. I think what I'm going to do, because I think doing 2 of these visual novel streams in a row, not just for Ace Attorney but for other stuff as well, it's going to wreck my throat. I didn't have any drink today, but I think it's going to wreck my throat anyway. So what I think we'll do is we will split it the same way we do Elden Ring streams. We'll do it at either end of the other streams. So we'll do this today, the Wednesday, Thursday slot, both days, and then we'll do Ace Attorney on the end. So the next one will be on Thursday. Not like cancelling or anything like that, just splitting up a little bit to give my throat a bit of a rest. I'll probably do the same for other visual novel games as well. So we'll play. We'll do the last part of Metal Hellsinger tomorrow. We'll start Plague Tale Innocence on Wednesday, and then we'll back to Ace Attorney on Thursday. That'll be our plan. So thanks for watching. Hope you have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.
You started playing Metal Hellsinger, did you? Let's go. It's on Game Pass, you may as well. So we'll do the last like 4 levels or so tomorrow. So probably a shorter stream as well, maybe about an hour and a half or so. So yeah, it's good. It's a good game. That's a good thing about the stream as well, being able to introduce new games to everyone. So that should be good fun. So yes, have a good end to your Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow for some Metal Hellsinger. See you later on. Goodbye.